जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदा नंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदा नंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदा नंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि बोल। ओके, प्लीज रिपीट। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। We'll chant the prayers together. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadev, the author. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So we are continuing with our reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 2, titled Hiranyakashipu, the King of the Demons. We'll be doing text 9 through 16 today, and our verse for focus is text 11. So, before we get started, what's happening in this chapter? Who are we discussing? Hiranyakashipu. What happened to Hiranyakashipu? Yeah, his brother was killed. By whom? Yeah, Lord Vishnu incarnated as Varahadev. This is the day of one-word answers. So, Lord Vishnu incarnated as Lord Varahadev and killed Hiranyakashipu. We read about this in detail in which canto? Third. It's been a while that it happened, but we're revisiting the story again. So, my spiritual master says, reading spiritual scriptures is not a linear thing. Like in material school, we go to the first grade, we're done with first grade, and go to the second grade. Everything that we needed to learn in first grade is done. But whereas spiritual reading is like a spiral. We go through the same points again and again and again, but every time we go through it, it's a little deeper and deeper and deeper. So we've heard this story again, but we are going to hear from the other perspective of what happened. We saw what happened with Hiranyaksha. But now, how did everybody else feel who were related to him once he left his body in this chapter, in this canto? And specifically, why does this discussion come about? What brought about this discussion? Something that was very important triggered this. Yeah. Shukadev Goswami narrated just the story of Vritrasura and Chitraketu in the previous canto, right? That's how it ended. But then Shukadev Goswami had this doubt on how Lord Vishnu is always incarnating to help the demigods. He seems to be partial. And then that's how he asks this question, and then Shukadev Goswami goes on to talk about a conversation between whom? Who is this conversation happening between? Yeah, Narada Muni and Yudhishthir Maharaj. Because Yudhishthir Maharaj also had this question. He was actually struck with wonder when he saw Shishupala, which we will learn about later again, but this is like foreshadowing. Bhagavatam is giving us a glimpse of what it's going to speak in the future. About how Shishupala, who was cursing Krishna so much, attained oneness with him. He attained Sayujya Mukti. How is this even possible? So then Narada Muni goes on to describe the story of Hiranyakashipu. So now Hiranyakashipu is really disturbed and angry that Lord Vishnu has killed his brother Hiranyaksha. And he has plans to get revenge on Lord Vishnu. This section is talking about what he plans to do in his rage of losing his brother. So let's read the translations from text 9 through text 16, and then we'll come back to text 11. Anybody have the mic? We have the mic? Oh, you can use this mic now.
When the root of a tree is cut and the tree falls down, its branches and twigs automatically dry up. Similarly, when I have killed this diplomatic Vishnu, the demigods for whom Lord Vishnu is the life and soul will lose the source of their life and wither away.
While I'm engaged in the business of killing Lord Vishnu, go down to the planet of Earth, which is flourishing due to Brahminical culture and Kshatriya government. These people engage in austerity, sacrifice, Vedic study, regulative vows, and charity. Destroy all the people thus engaged.
Yeah, he has his plans as twofold. Previously, he has gathered all the demons in the previous section, right? And then he's going to attack them in two-pronged ways. One, he is very confident that he has to kill Vishnu. Of this, there is no doubt, because he took the side of the demigods, and I mean, the remarkable thing is he at least understands that demigods are dependent on Vishnu in the previous verse. So if I kill the root, which basically if I kill Vishnu, then the demigods will wither away. And in the meantime, you demons, when I'm trying to kill Vishnu, you go and create chaos in the earth. You go and kill the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, stop them from doing their duty, and in that way religious principles are lost, and then it creates a lot of problems. Okay, let's continue.
The basic principle of Brahminical culture is to satisfy Lord Vishnu, the personification of sacrificial and ritualistic ceremonies. Lord Vishnu is the personified reservoir of all religious principles, and he is the shelter of all the demigods, the great Pitas, and the people in general. When the Brahmanas are killed, no one will exist to encourage the Kshatriyas to perform yagyas, and thus the demigods, not being appeased by yagya, will automatically die.
Yeah, it's a solid plan.
Immediately go wherever there is good protection for the cows and the brahmanas, and wherever the Vedas are studied in terms of the Varnashram Dharma principles. Set fire to those places and cut from the roots of the trees there, which are the source of life.
Yeah. So here we can see, just 1 second on text 12. So we're not going to touch on this verse, but the purport, but you can see what are all the things that are important for human society. Right? The cows, the brahmanas, the Vedic studies, and then trees that actually give us food. So practically speaking, you take out all of these things, and you're not going to have a good society. You're not going to have proper food. You're not going to have proper direction on how to live. You're not going to get your nutrition. Everything, materially, spiritually, everything is going to wither away if you can take out all of this. And we can compare this to the current situation that all of us are in Kali Yuga. The cows are being killed, the trees are being cut, and these are all in incredible proportions actually. In the proportions that Hiranyakashipu tried to do is what we're trying to do now. And we think we'll live in prosperity if we try to do all of that. Okay, continue.
Thus, the demons, being fond of disastrous activities, took Hiranyakashipu's instructions on their head with great respect and offered him obeisances. According to his directions, they engaged in envious activities directed against all living beings.
Prabhupada says in the purport, the followers of these demonic principles have one quality. You know what that quality is? Yeah, they're envious of people. So when they heard that they had to destroy people, they were really happy. Look at what they did. They took Hiranyakashipu's instructions on their head with great respect. This was the reaction to hear all these horrible instructions that he had given. because this was their nature. They were so envious of people, and when they got this opportunity to take some action on their thoughts, then they were very happy to do so.
The demons set fire to the cities, villages, pasturing grounds, cow pens, gardens, agricultural fields and natural forests. They burned the hermitages of the saintly persons, the important mines that produced valuable metals, the residential quarters of the agriculturists, the mountain villages and the villages of the cow protectors, the cowherdmen. They also burned the government capitals.
Yeah. They went on rampage.
Some of the demons took digging instruments and broke down the bridges, the protective walls, the gates, gopuras, of the cities. Some took axes and began cutting the important trees that produced mango, jackfruit, and other sources of food. Some of the demons took firebrands and set fire to the residential quarters of the citizens.
Thus disturbed again and again by the unnatural occurrences caused by the followers of Hiranyakashipu, all the people had to cease the activities of Vedic culture. Not receiving the results of yajna, the demigods also became disturbed. They left their residential quarters in the heavenly planets and, unobserved by the demons, began wandering on planet Earth to see the disasters.
Yeah. So this was a very, very disturbing situation. And we'll go to text 11, which is our focus verse for today. And then read Srila Prabhupada's purport. So, Vishnur Dvijakriya Mulo Yajño Dharmamaya Puman Devarshi Pitra Bhutanam Dharmasya cha parayanam Vishnur Dvijakriya Mulo Yajño Dharmamaya Puman Devarshi Pitra Bhutanam Dharmasya cha parayanam. Somebody want to chant? Devarshi Pitra Bhutana Dharmasya cha parayanam. Vishnur Dvija Kriya Mulo Yajño Dharma Puman Devarshir Pitra Bhutanam Dharmasya cha parayanam. Vishnur Dvija Kriya Mulo Yajño Dharmamaya Puman Devarshir Pitra Bhutanam Dharmasya cha parayanam. Vishnur Dvija Kriya Mulo Yajño Dharmamaya Puman Devarshi Pitra Bhutanam Dharmasya cha parayanam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is the word for word. Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dvija, of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. Kriya Mula, whose root is the performance of yajna and the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas. Yajna, personified Yajna. Lord Vishnu, who is known as the Yajna Purusha. Dharmamaya, full of religious principles. Puman, the supreme person. Deva Rishi, of the demigods and great rishis like Vyasadeva and Narada. Pitra, of the forefathers. Bhutanam, and of all other living entities. Dharmasya, of the religious principles. Sha, also. Parayanam, the shelter. Translation. The basic principle of Brahmanical culture is to satisfy Lord Vishnu, the personification of sacrificial and ritualistic ceremonies. Lord Vishnu is the personified reservoir of all religious principles, and he is the shelter of all demigods, the great pitas, and the people in general. When the Brahmanas are killed, no one will exist to encourage the Kshatriyas to perform yajnas, and thus the demigods, not being appeased by yajna, will automatically die. Purport. Since Vishnu is the central point of Brahmanical culture, Hiranyakashipu's plan was to kill Vishnu. For if Vishnu were killed, naturally the Brahmanical culture would also be lost. With Brahmanical culture lost, yajna would no longer be performed, and for want of yajna, the regular distribution of rainfall would cease. Yajnat bhavanti parjanya. Thus there would be disturbances all over the world, and naturally the demigods would be defeated. From this verse, we get a clear indication of how human society is disturbed when the Vedic Aryan civilization is killed and the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies performed by the Brahmanas are stopped. Kalau Shudra Sambhava. Because the population of the modern world consists mostly of Shudras, the Brahmanical culture is now lost and is extremely difficult to re-establish in a proper way. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has recommended the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, which will revive Brahmanical culture very easily. Harer Nama eva kevalam, kalau nasteva gatiranyata. Because of the increment in demonic population, people have lost Brahmanical culture. Nor is there a Kshatriya government. Instead, the government is a democracy in which any Shudra can be voted into taking up the governmental reins and capture the power to rule. Because of the poisonous effects of Kali Yuga, the Shastra Bhagavatam 12:13 says, Dasyu Prayeshu Rajasu. The government will adopt the policies of Dasyus or plunderers. Thus, when there will be no instructions from the Brahmanas, and even if there are Brahmanical instructions, there will be no Kshatriya rulers who can follow them. Aside from Satya Yuga, even formerly in the days when demons were flourishing, Hiranyakashipu planned to destroy the Brahmanical culture and the Kshatriya government and thus create chaos all over the world. Although in Satya Yuga, this plan was very difficult to execute, in Kali Yuga, which is full of Shudras and demons, the Brahmanical culture is lost and can be revived only by the chanting of the Mahamantra. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement or the Hare Krishna movement has been inaugurated to revive Brahmanical culture very easily so that people may become happy and peaceful in this life and prepare for elevation in the next. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya quotes this verse from the Brahmanda Purana. Viprayajnhadi moolam tu harir ityashuram matham harireva hi sarvasya moolam samyan matho nripa. O king, the demons think that Hari, Lord Vishnu, exists because of the Brahmanas and Yajna. But factually, Hari is the cause of everything, including the Brahmanas and Yajna. Therefore, through the popularization of Hari Kirtana or the Sankirtan movement, the Brahmanical culture and Kshatriya government will automatically come back and people will be extremely happy. I mean, this is one of the most incredible purports I've read from Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada here is quoting the natural cooperation that happens between the society and the demigods, which is what Hiranyakashipu is asked his demon friends to destroy. And he quotes this verse from the 3rd chapter, Yajnat Bhavanti Parjanya. This is the cycle that Krishna describes in the Gita in the 3rd chapter. The entire 3rd chapter basically talks about sacrifice. And who is sacrifice? Yeah, yajna. But who is yajna? Krishna himself is yajna. It's not, right? It's not what is yajna. But here, Krishna is described as yajna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the word for word we read. So, Krishna, in the beginning, he says, I've created everything that you need for you to be happy and for you to succeed in life. For all of us, Krishna has created everything for us to be happy and successful in this life. But Krishna gives a formula on how we can be happy and successful in this world. And this happens as a result of us performing sacrifice, and that sacrifice pleasing the demigods, and thus the demigods are providing everything that we need for us to be happy in this world. This is the cycle that Krishna gives in the 3rd chapter of the Gita. Drishtadyumna, can you open the 3rd chapter? I think this starts from text 11 of the Gita. Yeah, scroll down. Yeah, just one up, I think. 10. Starts from 10. Yeah. So Krishna says, in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent for generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu. This is the key. Right? He gave us different kinds of sacrifices and blessed them by saying, be thou happy by this yajna, because its performance will bestow upon you. Okay, it's too fast. Everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. Think about it. Krishna has given us everything for us to live happily and then achieve liberation. And Krishna gives us the cycle of how this can happen, right? Scroll down. Okay. The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. This is how we can be happy in this world. Go down and we'll see how. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied with the performance of yajna, sacrifice, will supply all the necessities to you. So by being satisfied, they will give you the necessities, but he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. So we have to recognize this cooperation between the demigods and human beings. Scroll down. The cycle that we are looking for is, yeah. So this is the cycle, right? All living bodies subsist on food grains. And what does food grains depend on? They're produced by rain, right? Without rain, there can be no food grains. And rains are produced by the performance of yajna, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. This is the point. So all of us have our prescribed duties. In fact, Krishna, before this section, says it's better to perform your own duty than trying to perform somebody else's duty. And from that perspective, he starts this. And we have 4 kinds of purusharthas: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. And each of the divisions of society is responsible for each of these purusharthas. Who is responsible for dharma? Yeah, upholding dharma. Yeah, the kshatriyas, right? If there are no kshatriyas, then we see that there is no dharma being followed, and then the society collapses. Who is responsible for artha? The vaishyas, right? And then, of course, the shudras are more involved with kama, which means gratifying our senses. And moksha, the brahmanas are responsible for moksha, or salvation, or liberation of the society. So the brahmanas tell what we should do to be happy and eventually be liberated. The kshatriyas enforce this rule in terms of doing it properly, in terms of dharma. And then the vaishyas help in terms of giving resources to perform dharma. And in this way, the entire society is happy. And what Hiranyakashipu is trying to do here in this verse is destroy the top 2, which is the brahmanas and the kshatriyas. If there is nobody to guide the society on what to do right, and if there is nobody to actually make it happen, which are the kshatriyas, the brahmanas don't have the capacity to make things happen. They can only give the ideas and and the instructions. But it is the kshatriyas who actually have the power to implement things. So if these 2 categories of people are destroyed, then all chaos will reign in the society. And the Bhagavad Gita in this section at least, speaks about the yoga ladder, right? So we are doing sacrifice for what reason in this section that we read? In the section that Krishna is describing here, right? We read the sacrifice. You perform sacrifice, what do you get? Yeah, for your happiness. This is the point. You want to be happy, right? All of us want to be happy. And then we think satisfying our senses will make us happy, but there is a right way to do it. You perform sacrifice, you will get what you want to get. After doing this for many lifetimes, we think that, oh, doing things for myself actually isn't making me happy. And then we try to ask the questions of why am I doing what I'm doing? Who am I? Why am I here? This is the progression of the yoga ladder that Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita. So you go from vikarma. Vikarma means what? No. Yeah. Karma means, in this sense, activity. You're performing action, right? But vikarma means doing action that is not prescribed in the Vedic literature. We have some desires, but I'll do anything to satisfy my desires. That is vikarma. But that is not even human life, the Veda says. The beginning of human life is at least to do your prescribed duties and get what you want to get. This is karma kanda. This is what Krishna is describing here in this section, is that you perform sacrifice, you need something, so you will perform the sacrifice that is required to get that, and then the demigods being pleased will give that to you. So better than that is karma yoga. Is that I am attached to the activity that I have to perform, but I know that doing it for myself is actually not really making me happy. So let me do it for the satisfaction of Vishnu. And then we start questioning the activity itself. Is that why am I doing this activity? Why am I here for? What am I doing it for? Then that goes into jnana, and that goes into dhyana, and eventually, if we succeed in performing meditation on the super soul, we might get to the stage of bhakti. So this is the varnashram system that Krishna describes and the yoga ladder that Krishna describes in the Gita. But Hiranyakashipu is here destroying this entire framework that Krishna himself has given. Right? Krishna says, Chaturvarnyam maya shishtam guna karma vibhagasha. That he himself has set forth this framework so that people can act according to their nature and be happy. But in the current times that we live in, what is the majority of the population that Prabhupada says is present? Yeah, he says Kalau Shudra Shambhava. But yet, the Shudras essentially are people who are too attached to sense gratification. This is the quality of the Shudras. So they will do anything to get what they want. Because they are not guided by the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas, they are not able to act in the right ways because they are too much influenced by their desires to get what they want. And because in the age of Kali, we don't have any proper Kshatriya or Brahmana, practically everybody is trying to do whatever they have to do to get their senses satisfied. This is the nature. And therefore, one time we elect a government, and if that government doesn't do what we want, then we switch the government. We switch. Oh, this person is not right. We'll put another person in who can give us what we want. Not what is good for us, but what I want. Oh, this person is not giving me, so let me switch this person. Better than a dictator, but but this is the system we have currently, that we are at least able to switch. In a dictatorship, that's not even possible. But the core of everything that we function for in this world is how we can satisfy ourselves. But Krishna says, when we act in such ways, only one thing happens in the Gita. He says, Yajñartat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanat. Here, even in such mentality, we do perform sacrifices, right? We sacrifice our time, we sacrifice our efforts, we do certain kinds of sacrifices to get what we want. But if such a sacrifice is not performed for the satisfaction of Vishnu, Yajñartat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanat, Krishna says, such activity, even if it is a sacrifice, will only bind us in this world. So this is the problem with the times that we live in, is that we don't have anybody to guide us properly on what is good for us. And even if there are such people who can guide us, we don't have people who can implement it in terms of Kshatriyas, who can help us, make us happy. And Prabhupada has this formula that he has given, right? He says it's very difficult to bring back the varnashram system in the times that we live in. He says, because the population of the modern world consists mostly of Shudras, the Brahmanical culture is now lost and is extremely difficult to re-establish in a proper way. This is very difficult. But he follows it by saying there is another easy method to the exact same thing. What is the method that he prescribes? He quotes this very, very famous verse, right? Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalau nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatiranyata. That just by chanting the holy names of the Lord, Prabhupada says the Brahmanical culture can easily be resurrected. This is the nature. So, if we look at the section that Krishna is describing here in the 3rd chapter, it might look as if Varnashram is a prerequisite, right? We have to have this Brahmanical culture, we have to have this cooperation between the demigods, and eventually you will get to Bhakti. But it's actually the other way around, which is what Prabhupada is explaining here in this purport. And he finishes off by saying this quote from Madhvacharya from Brahmanda Purana on how the demons think that Hari, Lord Vishnu, exists because of Brahmanas and Yajna. Right? He thinks that I'll destroy the Brahmanas, I'll destroy all kinds of sacrifices, and therefore God will be dead. There won't be God anymore. But it's actually the other way around. The Brahmanas and Yajna are actually dependent on Vishnu. It is not the other way, where Vishnu is dependent on the Brahmanas and the Yajnas. And therefore Prabhupada says through the popularization of Hari Kirtan or the Sankirtan movement, the Brahmanical culture and Kshatriya government will automatically come back. This is the point. That we can go about trying to perform our prescribed duties for our own selves and therefore get purified over time and then eventually come to the platform of Bhakti. But there are pitfalls in every step of that ladder. Right? This is the problem with the yoga ladder. Is that when you're trying to do karma yoga or karma khanda, what is the pitfall? If you succeed, you go to jnana. But what happens if you don't succeed? What is the pitfall? You go to the heavenly planets, but you can get down from the ladder, right? This is the pitfall. Meaning, in a ladder, you can either go up or go down. Isn't it? So you are there in karma khanda. If you don't do certain things properly, you will go down to vikarma. Because the karma kanda is still doing activities for our own sense gratification. Okay, initially I'm trying to follow the rules and regulations somehow to get things for myself. But then, because the motive is for my own sense gratification, I will break the framework. I will do things that are not prescribed and I will go to vikarma. This is the pitfall. Similarly, in jnana, what is the pitfall? I've gone up from the karma to the jnana ladder. Yes? Pride. This is the problem. Anybody who has knowledge thinks, oh, I know so many things. Pride creeps in and pride makes one fall. And even you can go as much as to think that you are God yourself. I am God. That's how much proud you can become in the jnana platform. Right? Okay, somehow you have succeeded from the jnana platform and moved to the dhyana platform where you are able to meditate on the Lord from the heart. What is the pitfall? Yeah, you get mystic powers and you want to wield the mystic powers. You're so sidetracked from what you wanted to do. And eventually, if you succeed in all of this, you get to the platform of devotional service. But the actual perfect thing to do is to perform devotional service. Chant the holy names of the Lord. And by chanting the holy names of the Lord, what will happen is that we will start to know our natures better. And when we start to know our natures better, we will function according to our nature. If I'm a Brahmana, I'll function like a Brahmana. If I'm a Kshatriya, I'll function like a Kshatriya, a Vaishya or a Shudra. But it absolutely doesn't matter because our function will be to please Krishna in that platform. Right? The Varnashram system is also established, but it is established for the right reasons of satisfying Vishnu. When you take Vishnu out of the Varnashram system, then it becomes really problematic. Therefore, Prabhupada says, the right way to go about creating Brahmanical and Kshatriya culture is to perform devotional service. And when we perform devotional service, we become Brahmanas. Actually, much more than Brahmanas. This is the point. When we call ourselves as Vaishnavas, Vaishnavas are much more than Brahmanas because we are doing everything for the satisfaction of Vishnu, for Krishna. And therefore, we automatically imbibe all the qualities of the Brahmanas. And how many of us are Brahman initiated here? Few. What are the qualities of Brahmanas? Then Shantim, Arjavam, Evacha. Then Brahma, Karma, Svabhavajam. All of us should know this. And especially for Brahman initiated should know this. Now, what the qualities of Brahmanas are. How are we expected to function or work in this society if you are a Brahmana? Sama means what? Peaceful. You have to be peaceful. Dhamma? No. Self-control. Tapa? Easy. Austerity. Shaucham? Cleanliness. Shantim? Tolerance. We said peaceful first. Shantim. Arjavam? Honesty. Jnanam? Knowledge. Vijnanam? Yeah, wisdom. Astikyam? Religiosity. We have to be religious. These are the qualities of a Brahmana. And this can go, each one can go deep, right? Just the quality of cleanliness. It can be external, it can be internal. And internal cleanliness and external cleanliness, you can go as deep as possible in each one of these qualities. So these are the qualities of a Brahmana. And if we call ourselves Vaishnavas, we better have Brahmanical qualities. Because we are saying Brahmins are much higher than Vaishnavas. Right? 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 Oh, Vaishnavas are much higher. Did they say the other way? Sorry. No, that's not what I meant. Vaishnavas are much higher than Brahmanas. Right? But the idea is we don't have to endeavor specifically to create these qualities, is what the Srimad Bhagavatam is saying. If we perform devotional service properly, these qualities will automatically manifest. This is the power of devotional service. Right? So if in our society, if we don't have proper Brahmanas, at least in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, if we are performing devotional service, and if we don't have enough Brahmanas, and if we don't have enough Kshatriyas, then the problem is we are not practicing devotional service properly, according to Srila Prabhupada in this purport at least. Because if we are performing devotional service, if we are performing Hari Kirtan properly, it will automatically revive Brahmanical and Kshatriya culture. Prabhupada is saying. Therefore, through the popularization of Hari Kirtan or the Sankirtan movement, the Brahmanical culture and Kshatriya government will automatically come back. And people will be extremely happy. So the key for happiness and success is performance of sacrifice, yes, but performance of sacrifice for the satisfaction of Vishnu, which is devotional service. Eventually, it's the case on how Krishna is saying here, but the fastest route is how Prabhupada is describing here in this purport. So we'll stop here and see if there are any questions, comments, thoughts, reflections. Yes, Drishtadhyumna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for such a wonderful class. I appreciate how we started off from this Varnashram perspective, and then you kind of flipped the table almost and said bhakti, devotional service, and that will follow bhakti.
Yeah.
But in the first part, I was thinking, like, how on earth can we spread Krishna consciousness if first we have to have a Brahminical culture, then we have to have empowered Kshatriyas to rule the government, and then everyone will become Krishna conscious. I was like, oh wow, this seems so difficult.
Yeah.
But then you brought in this perspective from Srila Prabhupada that actually first chant Hare Krishna, and then everything else will follow. So I just really appreciated how you put in proper context these statements in regards to devotional service.
Thank you. And Rupa Goswami says this also in the Nectar of Devotion, that devotional service is not dependent on anything. If we say that we can only have devotional service once we have Brahmanical culture, then Brahmanical culture is a prerequisite for devotional service. Devotional service is not dependent on anything. It's devotional service which will spawn all of these other things. Yes, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. I was just thinking when you mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, that democracy is better than dictatorship, something like that you were saying. But I was like, Prabhupada always says democracy is like demonocracy and things like that.
Demon crazy.
Yeah, and then he would say, I mean, hearing Canto 1, Prabhupada's lecture, Prabhupada was saying, the bunch of fools will elect a fool, and
Yeah.
what will the fool do? Because
Yeah.
the fools elected them.
Yeah.
Like we have already imperfect senses, and we choose somebody with the imperfect senses, the result cannot be wonderful. Whereas dictatorship, Prabhupada said, if you're wonderfully trained, and then your son comes and things like that,
It's
then,
monarchy.
I mean, that's what also is dictatorship, isn't it?
No, that's not
Because if you
dictatorship.
see, I was seeing that dictionary and it was saying then monocracy also. So,
Monarchy is different from dictatorship, right?
so it is, dictatorship means the single person is ruling it through, isn't
yeah,
it?
and also imposing his will recklessly on the people, and there is no way you can change such a person. The modern example of a dictator would be Hitler, right?
Yeah.
This is a dictator, or Mussolini, or all these, Stalin, right? Yeah, Gaddafi, or whatever. It's like so many people we have. There's a clear difference between a monarchy, and a dictatorship.
Yeah, because if it's then taking the word monarchy, because when Vena was not
Yeah.
such a nice king,
Yeah.
the Brahmanas threw him off or killed him, whatever. So I was just thinking, if democracy good at all,
I mean, this is the best of what we have, like, at least according to me. It is still crazy that people can elect anybody into powers or position, but then you have the ability to change those people in 4 years or 5 years' time, if you want to. And the best would be somebody like Parikshit Maharaj ruling all over us. That would be the best thing, like a monarchy in the best kind of sense, or Yudhishthir Maharaj, who was actually looking for the welfare of people. The dictators don't look for the welfare of people. They look for the welfare of themselves and exploit people. Yes, Maharaj.
Thank you so much. I have to just praise you because you say more in one sentence than I say in a paragraph, and sometimes it's so fast I can't
I
hear.
know. I have
goes
the
right
tendency to
beyond-
speak fast. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, you're good. It's okay. What is it when traveling on thin ice? You got to go fast. Okay. So thank you. Regarding monarchy, dictatorship, and democracy, and if anyone wants to know what it's like to live in a dictatorship, read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich
Yeah.
by William Shire. I read that when I was only 10, and that is an intense
Yeah.
description, step by step, how the populace is controlled,
Yeah.
how they cannot think. They're not even, it's called thought police. You even have thought police. I mean, it's that bad.
Yeah.
So please,
Yeah.
we have got it made so good in this country. It's unbelievable.
I agree.
It is off the chart great. A
Yeah.
lot of people want to complain and see the cup half empty. I'm preferring to see it half full, because
Yes,
otherwise it's too depressing.
Yeah.
Also, keep in mind, Srila Prabhupada got his start here in this country.
Yeah.
Okay, and he gave so much credit to the United States of America. In fact, close to the end of his life, and many witnesses were there, he wanted citizenship.
Mm.
That's how strongly he felt. So a lot of devotees like to take one side or the other, but really, guys,
Yeah.
Krishna's in control.
See, that is the point. In the sense, irrespective of any system that we put in place, right? If Krishna is not in the center, any system can be exploited. Right? In a dictatorship, it's really open. In a democracy, it's not so open. But irrespective, everybody is trying to exploit the populace for a few people's interest or benefit. This is the problem, because we are all living in this perspective of how can I satisfy myself, not how can I satisfy Krishna. If in any system, if we can think of how can I satisfy Krishna, then we'll think of everybody as parts and parcels of Krishna, and we will try to help everybody get attached to Krishna, right? And then systems will fall in place. But the problem is Krishna is not in the center, and any system is going to have problems in that case. Yes, Nanda Braja Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Wonderful class. Broken down so nicely. My question is that towards the end of the class, you were mentioning that the characteristics automatically appear
Yeah.
through devotional service.
Yeah.
I'm not such a one for things just appearing.
Uh,
Like, in my life, I really haven't seen so much things just like, you know.
yeah.
So I'm curious, do the characteristics of Brahminical nature just appear, or what does that look like?
Yeah, it just doesn't appear because you're doing the work for it, right? In terms of performing devotional service. So that's the work. That work brings about the character, because what that work is doing is cleansing your consciousness. Cheto Darpana Marjanam starts happening, and then you might not have the Brahminical nature. Your Kshatriya nature might pop out, your Vaishya nature might pop out, your Shudra nature might pop out, but irrespective of what your nature is, it's fine because you're still a devotee of the Lord. Right? There is no exploitation in that sense. The Brahmana is still seeing a Shudra and trying to guide the Shudra because the Shudra has that nature, but the Shudra is also doing things not for his own gratification but to satisfy Vishnu. Right? Like the paintings in the temple or the construction of the temple might be considered Shudra work, but who are they doing it for? From that perspective, the Brahmana has incredible respect on the Shudra. Right? And then the Brahmana is guiding the Shudra saying, you have this nature, why don't you do it for Krishna? In that way, everything is revolving around how we can satisfy Krishna. So by performance of devotional service, the Bhagavatam says, right, you can have all the quality of the demigods, and if you don't have performed devotional service, everything is useless. But if you don't have any of these qualities and you have devotional service, that one thing can give you every other thing. It doesn't pop up just like that, but you have to do that one thing properly. That's the point. Is that if you perform devotional service properly, according to how the acharyas are asking us to perform, that takes work, right? This is Vidhi Bhakti. That we have to perform according to the rules and regulations that are given to us by the acharyas, then spontaneity comes up.
So my question would come naturally that to do something properly, you have to have the right characteristic or attitude to do it even.
Correct.
But we don't have that attitude.
Correct. This is what Prabhupada says in the preface of the NOI, right? Your progress in devotional service depends on your attitude of the follower, practitioner. In any practice, your attitude is important, right? If I have to perform devotional service, the basic attitude is, I have all these bad qualities, but Krishna, I know that you are my master. That basic attitude is enough. Then Krishna will take over, right? This is surrender. This is Sharanagati. A difference between surrendering and trying to do things on our own is that I have all these bad qualities, Krishna, but then my attitude is that you are my master and I am surrendering to you. You please take care of me. I will try to do things to the best of my ability. Then Krishna helps. Right? Tesham evanukam partam aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayam yatma bhavasto jnana deepena bhashvata. When we go with that attitude, Krishna will destroy our ajnana, our ignorance, and then give us the knowledge with which we can come to him. Right? Give us the lamp of knowledge. But the attitude is important, like you said. But what is that attitude? The basic attitude is, Krishna, I am your servant, you are my master. I am here to serve you. Please help me.
This is very satisfying, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. I'm thinking that with the right attitude, you're willing to correct your character, right? If you have the wrong attitude, you can't even make adjustments, right? No. But if you have the right attitude, even if devotional service is performed incorrectly, you could say, yes, you still will be purified so that you have the right character. Very nice. We have to, so this is the first quality Krishna says. He gives so many qualities of knowledge in the 13th chapter, right? 26 qualities or something of knowledge. What is the first quality of a knowledgeable person? Does anybody know? So Krishna gives 26 qualities of a knowledgeable person in the 13th chapter, right? Of the Gita. First quality, you know what it is? Humility. If you're not humble enough, you wouldn't go and ask for knowledge. Right? Oh, I know everything. So this is the first point of Tatvidhi Pranipada. You're humble enough to go and approach somebody who will teach you to do things the right way, who knows what to do. If you don't have that humility, how will you even go and ask somebody to know what you have to do? And that person will guide you. This is Krishna's point. He will guide you if you're doing things incorrectly. You need that guidance, but you need that humility to go and approach a person to ask for guidance. Right? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for your class.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, you had mentioned that in the ladder of yoga, in some types of activities, whether it's karma, jnana yoga, there is a chance of falling down.
Yeah.
Is there a chance of falling down in bhakti yoga or devotional service?
There is, but there is a difference. So in the yoga ladder, if you fall down, there is, or even if you're performing the particular function of a yoga ladder, there is no guarantee that you will continue from where you left off in your next life. There is no guarantee that you will reach the top of the yoga ladder in the same life. But the thing with bhakti is, even if you're incomplete, if you're not able to succeed in your practice of devotional service, you will continue from where you left off. This is Krishna's guarantee. So therefore Krishna says, Neha bikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahatobhayat. That there is no loss or diminution in this process of devotional service. The other process, there is loss or diminution. For example, what have you studied? Can I ask you that? You do have a bachelor's, master's?
Yes, Prabhupada. I have undergrad.
You're an undergrad, right?
I complete, yes.
Yeah.
Prabhupada.
So next lifetime, can you say, I've finished my bachelor's, let me start from my post-graduation, my master's?
No, Prabhupada.
No. But bhakti gives you that, right? I'm not able to complete bhakti. I've not finished it, but still Krishna gives us the opportunity to continue from where we left off. This is the point of bhakti. There is no loss in what we do.
Hari.
Thank you, Prabhu. You touched on this topic that, like, when you're doing devotional service, maybe we are trying to cultivate Brahminical qualities,
Yeah.
but some other, whatever our basic nature is, might pop out. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
So if some other basic nature pops out, and we're still, our purpose is to still try and cultivate Brahminical qualities. So how do we synthesize both? We know this is our basic nature, but we are drawn to, trying to cultivate Brahminical quality. But we know very clearly we're not Brahmins.
Yeah. So let me paraphrase this. So we are trying to cultivate Brahminical qualities when performing devotional service. But if we find that our nature is something else apart from that of a Brahmana, but we're still trying to kind of do this. My point is, we don't have to, is the question. Because if we perform devotional service, it's much beyond Brahminical qualities. That we're doing things for the satisfaction of Krishna, and it can be done with any nature. You can have a Kshatriya nature and still act in such a way that you're pleasing Krishna. And because you're pleasing Krishna, you're not going to be duplicitous, you're not going to try to exploit people, you'll do the Kshatriya dharma in the right way.
So, but we still can aspire to have second initiation and still can aspire to do devotional service on the altar.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I don't think, devotional service is completely different from the Varnashram system, right? All of us have a right to perform devotional service. And Prabhupada says, as Grihasthas, all of us should perform deity worship. Irrespective of what our nature might be, right? We are performing deity worship for the satisfaction of Krishna. But then, I'm trying to perform deity worship, but that might not be my forte, but I still try to do it in the best way that I can do deity worship. But then have my own nature in which I can actually excel and perform my day-to-day activities, right? We might not be a pujari on the altar, right? But being a pujari might be a part-time thing that we do during the day. But then I have my own nature that I use for the dominant part of the day. Yeah?
Thank you.
But we still try to do as much as possible on the altar. not say, this is my nature, so I can't do it.
I think you've already kind of touched on this point, but towards the end of class, you were mentioning that Prabhupada was saying, that basically we're not doing enough kirtan or devotional service, or at least we're not doing it with the goal to please the Lord clearly enough. And if that was happening, then naturally Brahmanas and Kshatriyas would be coming about. So I guess that's my question. Is it? And you mentioned in the preface of Nectar of Instruction, what was the word?
Attitude.
Attitude. So is it that our attitude is just not right? Because so much kirtan is going on, so much service is happening.
Yeah.
But is the attitude, like, what is it that's missing, that it's not manifesting like that?
Oh. It's a really difficult question. I don't think I can. I don't think I'm going to question the attitude of anybody performing devotional service. Prabhu, your attitude is not right. I'm not going to go and say that. This I can say in general terms is that we have a Brahmanical instruction here, right? That Prabhupada is saying, this is the vision, is that if we perform Hari Kirtan very nicely, then Brahmanical and Kshatriya culture will manifest. So the Kshatriyas have to implement it. Implement it in the right way so that people come together and then our focus is Hari Kirtan. We have to constantly gauge or try to measure ourselves to see everything that we are doing, is it to please Krishna? If all of us have that attitude, then when all of us come together, the Kirtan is complete. It's Sankirtan, right? Or am I coming here to do Kirtan so that I can sing? Am I coming here to play a mridanga so that, oh, I can play the mridanga? Or am I coming here to sing so that Kalachanji is pleased and the mridanga is helping in pleasing Kalachanji? Am I giving a class so that I want the garland and the adoration and the respect of people? Or am I giving a class for my own purification and to try to somehow illuminate what Prabhupada is saying for the benefit of people who are hearing it? So it is an individual thing, right? And also the institution can also help in setting the right mood. So when both of them have to coincide, right? The individual has to have the proper attitude to say, why am I doing what I'm doing? Am I cooking for Krishna so that I can prove that I can make all of this? Or am I cooking for Krishna so that I want to please him? Am I dressing for Krishna because I want to put all of this on him? Or am I pleasing, am I dressing for every single service, right? We can gauge ourselves what our attitude is. That's from our individualistic perspective. And from the institution's perspective, the institution can always have frameworks in place that can guide people into such a consciousness or a mentality. When I come into this space, is this space creating that attitude for me, helping me in enhancing that attitude for me? Or is this space actually not doing anything? Okay, everything is on its own and individual efforts are being, make sense? In a generalistic way, this is what I can think of.
Yeah, so very simply just, having a kirtan, for instance, in the temple room, but, no cell phones are allowed in the temple room or something like that, where you just really create in this very clear mood and space. So anyway, it can be done in so many ways practically.
Thing you do in Kirtan 50, right? We're trying to bring our intentions. I think that has to be done constantly, not once in a year when all of us get together for Kirtan 50. But every time we do Kirtan, somebody is trying to set the intention for, oh, this is why we're doing it. And then, okay, we have tried to set the intention and the space, and then people who participate will participate. And another main thing I feel, which is very dear to me, is set educational systems in place. If that is not there, then it's impossible. From the grassroots level, you need to have, anybody who comes into contact should have a program in which their consciousness is set. In any way they come in contact with the temple. This is our mood, this is our attitude, this is what we're going for. Should be very clear. Nanda Braja Prabhu, and then we have to wrap up.
I really was thinking that, being only a 50-year-old movement, I think we have like 200 million devotees around the world.
Yeah.
And GBC has made this commitment to 3%.
335.
335, right? And this no doubt will happen.
Yeah.
Because of all this Sankirtan that's been going on, you really see that our movement is really moving.
Yeah.
Momentum is really carrying forward. And we're going to see some huge strides. I think Srila Prabhupada said that your children's children's children will fly on carpets.
Yeah.
And light fire by mantra.
Yeah.
So the Sankirtan movement, and even questions like this, like how can we make our Sankirtan, our Kirtan, even more attentional, is the proof that the Sankirtan is working, right? Because isn't that what we said, that through devotional service, if we have a right attitude, then we'll start to develop the characteristics. And we're talking about characteristics in Kirtan, right? And attitudes during Kirtan.
Yeah.
And so that devotional service is making movement.
I'm also reminded of this quote that Prabhupada made of boiling the milk, right? We need both. We need new people into the movement so that their enthusiasm rubs off on us, right? But at the same time, we also need to start boiling the milk and becoming more intentional, more intense in our practice of devotional service. Both are required, I feel. Okay, we'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa sindhubhye vacha, Patitanam pavanebhyo